What happens when two of the loudest voices in America face each other on live television, and neither one is willing to back down? What starts as a simple interview quickly turns into a televised battlefield. Jokes turn into jabs, facts turn into weapons, and within minutes, the tension is so thick you can feel it through the screen. The audience doesn't know whether to laugh, clap, or just hold their breath. Every exchange cuts deeper. Every comeback hits harder, until what was meant to be conversation becomes a full-blown showdown. By the end, one thing is certain. This wasn't an interview. It was a collision. And what happened next would leave everyone in that studio, and millions watching at home, in stunned silence. The studio lights hit hard, bright enough to wash out any hint of nervousness, but the tension was already there. Trump stepped onto the stage like a man entering familiar territory, waving with that practiced confidence, as if the room already belonged to him. Maher stood, hands clasped, wearing that trademark half-smile. Trump reached out first. The handshake looked friendly from afar, but up close it was stiff, almost defiant. It lingered a fraction too long. Both men leaned in just enough to make it uncomfortable. They sat down. Maher adjusted his cue cards. Trump straightened his tie. "I'll admit, I'm surprised you showed," Maher said, tone light but eyes sharp. Trump leaned back, letting the silence stretch just enough. "I came to set the record straight," he said, voice calm but edged like a blade. The audience laughed, unsure if it was safe to do so. Maher smirked, tapping his desk. "All right then, let's do that. Let's start with the election, since you never seem to stop talking about it." Trump's eyes narrowed slightly. "You mean the one I won?" The audience made a mix of sounds, some cheers, some groans. Maher pressed on. "You know, most people would call what you're saying denial." Trump shot back, "And most people would call what you're doing bias." The room went quiet. The laughter stopped. The audience didn't know which line to follow anymore, Maher's sarcasm or Trump's conviction. The questions came faster now. Maher leaned forward, eyes locked on Trump. "You keep saying there were irregularities," he said, his tone sharp but steady. "But who exactly is we all know? Because the courts don't know. The audits don't know. Even your own people didn't find anything." Trump gave a tight smile, like a man daring his opponent to keep going. "Come on, Bill." "Everybody saw what happened," he said. "Millions of mail-in ballots, no checks, no verification. We all know it wasn't right." Maher shook his head. "No, you keep saying that. But saying it doesn't make it true." He leaned back in his chair, as if daring Trump to explode. Trump didn't hesitate. "You say whatever fits your story, and then call it fact. That's not journalism. That's comedy pretending to be news." The audience reacted with a low, uneasy murmur. Maher's smirk faded. He wasn't used to losing control this early in an interview. Then Maher went for it. "You mean like when you suggested people inject disinfectant?" The crowd made a noise, half gasp, half laugh. Trump's hand slammed down on the armrest, the thud cutting through the studio. "I asked a question, Bill. I didn't tell anyone to drink bleach, but you twisted it into that because it made me look bad." His voice rose now, the calm gone. "You did it, the media did it, everyone did it. You turned a question into a headline." The audience split right down the middle, some clapping, others booing. Maher held up his hands. "Okay, let's relax," he said, but his tone wasn't relaxed at all. Maher tried to steer it away, but Trump wasn't letting go. "You see? This is what I mean," he said, jabbing a finger toward Maher. "You twist, you spin, and when I push back, suddenly I'm the problem." A woman in the third row laughed nervously. A man 2 seats over booed. The energy turned uneven, laughter clashing with outrage. Maher glanced toward his producer's booth for help, but the earpiece stayed silent. "Let's move on," Maher said finally, his smile forced. "No," Trump replied, leaning in. "Let's finish this. You want to talk about truth? Let's talk about your truth." The room went quiet. Maher shifted gears, trying to pull the focus back to something concrete. "Let's talk about the wall," he said, glancing at his notes. "You promised Mexico would pay for it. Last time I checked, that didn't exactly happen." Trump leaned back in his chair, nodding like he'd been waiting for this. "They did pay for it, just not with a check," he said. "Through trade deals, through renegotiations, we got billions back into the U.S. economy. That money went into projects like the wall. So yeah, they paid." Maher let out a laugh that landed like a jab. "That's not how paying works. If I say you'll pay for dinner and I get a discount on my car insurance, you didn't buy my steak." The audience chuckled, relieved for a moment of humor. Trump smiled thinly. "It's called smart business, Bill. You wouldn't know about that." The laughter stopped cold. "That's creative accounting," Maher shot back, "and maybe even creative storytelling." Trump's face tightened, and Maher saw his chance to dig deeper. "You also called the press the enemy of the people," he said. "Do you really believe that?" Trump didn't flinch. "I believe in accountability. The press lies, they twist, they distort, and when I call them out, they call it an attack. But holding them accountable isn't the same as silencing them." Maher tilted his head. "But when you call them the enemy, that's not accountability, that's sabotage. That's you turning millions of people against the idea of a free press." Trump's response was slower this time, heavier. "They turned people against themselves," he said. "They earned that title." The crowd stirred again, unsure whether to clap or boo. In the control room, a new kind of chaos unfolded. The graphics operator's lower third chyron flickered for a second. Was Mexico the check? Before being yanked off screen. The director barked, "Fix it!" as tweets started popping up on the social media monitor behind them. Hashtag Maher owns Trump versus Trump shuts down Maher. Two narratives, born seconds apart, now racing across the internet. Back on stage, Maher raised his voice. "You make your supporters distrust everything that doesn't come from you," he said. Trump leaned forward. "Because it's wrong." The audience erupted again, half laughter, half frustration. A floor manager waved the quiet card, but no one cared. The noise only grew louder, feeding the tension on stage. Maher glanced at his cue cards, realizing the interview had slipped out of his hands. Trump wasn't answering questions anymore. He was rewriting the rules, live, on national television. Maher leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Let's go back to the investigation. You've said 100 times you were cleared, but the report literally said you were not exonerated. There were contacts with Russian officials. People in your circle went to jail." Trump exhaled slowly through his nose. "Process crimes, Bill. Paperwork stuff, tax filings, things that had nothing to do with me or Russia. It was a witch hunt, pure and simple." The word witch hunt hit the air again like a drumbeat, heavy and familiar. Years of fake stories, millions wasted, and what did they find? Nothing. Maher didn't flinch. "When do you take responsibility for anything?" he pressed. "For the chaos, for the lies, for the division?" Trump's smile thinned. "I take responsibility for what's real, not for the made-up nonsense you people keep spinning." The tone of his voice had changed, lower, tighter, as if he was holding something in. The audience, once restless, went still. Then Trump said it, out loud, the thing most politicians only hint at. "You don't get it, Bill. The media, the intelligence agencies, the political establishment, they all work together. You think those leaks just happen? They coordinate. They push the same headlines, the same talking points. It's not paranoia. It's the truth." His voice carried across the studio, and for the first time all night, the audience didn't make a sound. No laughs, no boos, just silence. It was the kind of silence that made producers nervous. Maher leaned slightly off camera, speaking under his breath to his producer, not realizing the mic was still hot. "If he goes there, we cut to break." Trump's head snapped toward him. "Cut wherever you like," he said, eyes locked. The tension cracked like glass. Maher straightened, now speaking directly to the camera again. "We're not cutting," he said flatly. The control room froze. On screen, two men sat across from each other. No jokes, no smiles, just a stare down that felt more like a courtroom than a comedy show. For the first time, Maher looked uncertain. Trump, on the other hand, looked completely at home in the chaos. Maher took a slow breath and went for the topic everyone in the room knew was coming. "Let's talk about January 6th, he said. The words alone drew a low murmur from the audience. "You told people to fight like hell, and they did. You still don't take any responsibility for what happened that day?" Trump's body stiffened. He leaned forward, eyes locked. "Don't you dare twist that," he said, voice rising. "I told people to protest peacefully. Peacefully. You know that Maher didn't back down. You told them the election was stolen. You told them this was their last chance. That's gasoline, Donald." Trump stood up suddenly, finger pointed straight across the desk. "Don't you dare, Bill." The room snapped silent. Maher pushed back his chair and stood too. Now both men were on their feet, two silhouettes squared off under the stage lights. Neither blinked. You could feel the audience holding its breath. In the shadows, just off stage, two security guards edged closer. A voice crackled in a producer's earpiece. "Do we step in?" The director hissed back, "Negative." Not yet. One camera drifted wide, trying to catch the full frame. Trump towering over the desk, Maher squared like he was bracing for impact, until the director slammed a hand on the switcher. "Stay tight," he barked. "We're not cutting." Maher spoke first, his tone sharp, deliberate. "They built gallows outside the Capitol, Donald. They smashed windows. They threatened to hang people. You call that peaceful?" Trump's jaw clenched. "For the most part it was," he said. "People were angry because they love their country. You and your friends in the media turned it into something it wasn't." The words landed heavy. Somewhere in the third row, a woman gasped and covered her mouth. The oxygen in the room seemed to vanish. Maher looked at him, disbelief written across his face. "You're seriously saying that was peaceful?" Trump didn't answer right away. He straightened his jacket, stepped back from his chair. Just a single, deliberate step. For a second, everyone thought he was about to walk off. Maher's voice broke the tension. "So that's it? You're leaving? After lighting the match?" Trump paused, then slowly sat back down, eyes locked on Maher. "I build," he said quietly. "You tear down." The line hit like a closing argument. Maher leaned forward again, unshaken. "Then stay," he said, "and answer for it." Trump didn't move, didn't blink. Round 5 wasn't over. It was only getting started. Maher leaned back, trying to bring the moment under control, but his voice still carried an edge. "You've been fact-checked thousands of times, Donald. Thousands. And not about opinions, about things that are flat-out false." Trump smirked, waving it off. "Fact-checkers? Please. They're just another arm of the media. They pick what they want to check and ignore what doesn't fit their agenda. You know it. Everyone knows it." Maher leaned forward again, refusing to let the dismissal slide. "You've called everything rigged, corrupt, or biased, unless it goes your way. That's the pattern. If a court rules against you, it's corrupt. If a network reports something you don't like, it's fake. If a fact-checker proves you wrong, it's bias. So tell me, is there any world where you could ever just be wrong?" Trump's smile faded. "I'm not wrong, Bill. I see what's happening because I lived it. You comment on it. That's the difference." Maher hit back immediately, voice sharp and deliberate. "No, the difference is I question power. You demand praise." The audience reacted instantly, half cheering, half booing, the sound swelling until it became one long wave of noise. Each line landed like a jab. Two men, Two realities, each daring the other to flinch first. Then Maher dropped the question that blew the roof off the room. Did you lose fairly, yes or no? Trump froze. The silence that followed was thick, almost cinematic. Every camera zoomed in just a little tighter. Nothing about that election was fair, he said finally. The words came slow, but firm. The audience exploded, applause and groans crashing into each other, a chaotic mix of outrage and victory. Maher blinked, stunned at the reaction. In the control room, panic set in. A producer slammed the break button on the slate. "Cut to commercial," someone shouted, but the network's legal advisor shook her head. "Don't. Let it roll," another voice snapped. "We can't air this live." "We are," the director interrupted, staring at the monitor. "This is the show." Back on stage, Maher looked like he wanted to push again, but the atmosphere had changed. Trump wasn't on defense anymore. He was feeding off the chaos. Every camera stayed locked on him. Every word that followed would be dissected for days. But for now, nobody cut, nobody blinked, and the line between interview and explosion officially disappeared. The tension never really broke. It just changed shape. Maher leaned forward, his voice quieter now but sharper than ever. "Politics isn't total war, Donald." Trump didn't hesitate. "It is," he said flatly. Maher blinked. "That's the problem." Trump stood, buttoned his jacket. "You attack, I answer. That's called balance." He gave a thin smile and walked off without offering a second handshake. For a long second, nobody moved. Then a few claps broke the silence, uneven, half-hearted. Someone laughed nervously. A boo echoed from the back row. Maher glanced at the camera, exhaling hard. "Well, that happened?" It was supposed to be a throwaway line, but within minutes it would explode online, turned into memes, tweets, and late-night commentary. Backstage, the chaos began. A producer and a PR manager argued in the hallway, voices raised just enough for a staffer's phone to catch it. "You said we wanted a moment," one snapped. "We got a wildfire." The clip leaked before the night was over, bleeped, muffled, and instantly viral. By morning, the internet had split in two. On one side, a video titled, "Maher exposes Trump live." On the other, "Trump destroys Maher on his own show." Both racked up millions of views. Both claimed victory. And as pundits picked it apart, a simple truth hung in the air. This wasn't just an interview, it was an X-ray. Two realities, one stage, and a country watching its own fracture unfold in real time, broadcast in 4K. Hours later, another twist hit social media. A leaked document claiming to be the show's pre-interview agreement, allegedly banning questions about January 6th, and direct concession talk. No one could confirm if it was real. But the timing was too perfect. The internet didn't care about authenticity anymore. The battle had already moved on. To the next clip, the next argument, the next divide. If you've made it this far, you know this wasn't just a TV interview. It was a collision of two worlds, and neither side walked away unchanged. If you want more raw, unfiltered moments like this, the kind that pull back the curtain on power, ego, and truth, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, and tell us who really won that night.